Hello, my name is Bailey. Welcome to the channel. This is a reading vlog. Welcome. Enjoy your stay. I am reading a couple things right now. First up, we have Serendipity, edited by Marissa Meyer. I was going to say Sarah J. Maas. Oops. This is an anthology. It is 10 romantic tropes transformed. I am 2 stories in. I am not enjoying it. And I just got the audiobook so I can listen to the rest of it because I truly don't want to read this with my eyes. I am not really a fan. I don't really like anthologies, and I don't really like contemporary, and I didn't vibe with the first 2 stories. Basically, we have however many authors, and they all got like a trope. So like, fake relationship, one bed, secret admirer, whatever. And they like write a little short story surrounding this trope. That's all good and well. The first 2 just did not hit for me. I'm hoping the other ones do. I'm really excited for the one Marissa Meyer herself wrote because that's like the reason I picked up this book was because Marissa Meyer's name was on it. This is all YA contemporary, by the way. Kind of the reason I'm not liking it, probably because I don't like YA contemporary. I realize that is not a genre I enjoy. Will I keep reading it? Totally though. Speaking of YA contemporary plus magical realism, we have Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno. I am 118 or 19 pages into this. I read this before, like a few years ago, absolutely loved it, and I should not have reread it because it's just not hitting for me. The book itself is completely fine and has changed in no way, obviously, but I just am out of the phase where I enjoy contemporary, and I also just don't like magical realism. Magic in a real-life setting, it's not something I enjoy at all. So the fact that this is YA contemporary and magical realism is just like a combination for me not enjoying it this time around. So I really wish I didn't reread this, but I'm rereading it and annotating it for a friend, so that's kind of like why I picked it up, but I definitely regret doing so. And this takes place on a little island called By the Sea, and it follows this girl named Georgia, and she is in the Fernway family, and the Fernway women are notorious for having little magical abilities. That's like the basic premise. I'm not actively reading this right now. I haven't DNF'd it, but I'm just gonna put it on the sidelines. I have like literally 120 pages left, so like one day, hopefully soon, I'll just like crack through those 100-something pages so I can be done with this and give this to my friend. So I'm bringing it up just in case I like actually finally finish this, and then it won't be out of the blue when I talk about it later. The book I'm actually like actively reading is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is the 3rd book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. I just ran and grabbed the other books, but here's the dust jacket for the book I'm reading. I finished A Good Girl, Bad Blood, which is the 2nd book, yesterday, and I ended up giving this 5 stars. I actually really loved it, and this is the year of me finishing series, so that's why I picked up the last book immediately. I like the direction these books are going because this book was just like a standard mystery or whatever, and then this book kind of has gone in the direction of like more gray morality, and I'm really enjoying that, but it's also like breaking my brain. Like, this one was more of like a standard whodunit kind of thing, and this one kind of like toyed with the idea of like everyone's kind of bad and everyone's kind of good, and like we can't really label things as like strictly evil behaviors, and that is something I am a sucker for. I'm a sucker for gray morality and like talking about the fact that there's like no such thing as the good and bad side, and that everyone is kind of fluid and in between. That's why Arch Enemies is one of my favorite books ever. So I really like this. It also made one of my least favorite characters of this book honestly one of my favorite characters in the series, and that is just impressive. Like, go Holly Jackson. The ending of this, fucking wild and heartbreaking for me. I guess I should synopsize the series for you. It follows this teen detective. Well, like, she's not like a self-proclaimed teen detective, but she ends up being a teen detective. Her name is Pippa. She lives in this small town called Fairview, and back in the day, me and you, baby, we used to have fun. Back in the day, well, not back in the day, like maybe 4 or 5 years earlier, there was this murder of this girl, and then the subsequent suicide of her boyfriend, and everyone has just assumed that the boyfriend killed her and then like committed suicide out of guilt. And so Pip is doing a school project, and she is determined to find out the real truth about what happened to the girl who died, whose name is Andy Bell, and yeah. I gave this book 2.5 stars. I think part of why I didn't love this book is because I got spoiled for part of the reveal, so the end kind of fell flat for me. I don't think I would have ever really loved the end of this book, but I feel like I would have liked it more than I did. But in general, most of this book is probably a 4-star for me, and then the end just kind of like flopped for me. This book, 5 stars like I mentioned, absolutely loved it. What I think I love most about the series is that it's very fast-paced, and like they're always giving you little clues to chew on. You're never like going long stretches of time with nothing new in the plot and the mystery, which I really, really love. It keeps you really engaged, and you never want to put it down, which I think is excellent. I also like that the main character, Pip, is not like one of those willfully ignorant characters where when a clue is added that clearly ties into stuff, you don't have to sit there waiting for the character to figure it out. Like, she figures it out relatively fast, and you're never sitting there for like hundreds of pages being like, I know the answer, why doesn't she get it? You know, like, she's actually smart and she follows logical reasoning. Love it. So I really like the way these are written. The problem I'm having with this book, and it's not actually the book's fault at all, which you'll see in a second, but by the way, I'm like 60 pages into it. The problem I'm having with this is the end of this book, like, low-key, very high-key traumatized the main character, Pip, and I respect that, and I actually do kind of like the way PTSD and, like, the showing of her actual mental trauma is being done. With that being said, I do have an anxiety disorder, and the kind of shit going on in Pip's head is definitely not triggering good things in my brain, so it's kind of tough to read this right now, just because, like, she's having a lot of death anxiety and, like, existential dread, and, like, I don't need that. I have an anxiety disorder. It's not good for me. So I'm kind of hoping, it's gonna sound really dumb, but, like, I'm hoping she gets out of this traumatized rut. I'm not saying I want her trauma to be fixed overnight. I just want her out of it a little so that I don't have to fall into a depressive episode. But with that being said, I'm really excited. My friend Ava, she told me this book is like really creepy, and so far I'm really liking what the mystery vibes are gonna be for this book. So yeah, this is the current active physical read. I've been really slacking in the schoolwork category, so I really need to pick that up. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that tonight or I'm gonna put that off another night, because procrastination is my favorite thing to do. But with that being said, I have nothing else to talk to you about right now. I kind of want to go to bed, honestly, even though it's not like too late and I have schoolwork to do. Anyways, welcome to the vlog. See you in the next clip. Hello folks, it is time for me to clean my depression room, which has gotten a little bit dire. You can't see the floors, and neither can I. It's also the last day of January, which means I want to finish a book. As Good as Dead is definitely not going to get finished today because I have like half the book left, but I will tell you that it has gone in a very interesting direction. Compared to the first 2 books, I was starting to think that this one was very obvious because like I had come to the conclusion that I like had determined was definitely the answer. So I was like kind of getting disappointed, but then like at the halfway point, this book just took a turn that I did not foresee. Like, it really like broke the mold of what mystery novels usually do. So I don't know how to explain it better than that without like spoiling anything, but you know how usually we have confrontations at like the end of a mystery novel, like everything comes together, we have all the clues, and then we confront the big bad, and then whatever. This book does not follow that formula, and it's kind of wonderful. So I'm having a really good time with this, but I'm not gonna be able to finish this today, and I can't read this while I'm cleaning the depression room. So that's the update on this for now. I'm on page like 220 something, 222 or 223. So making my way through this. Loving it so far. What I am going to be doing while I'm cleaning the depression room is listening to the audiobook of Serendipity. I just listened to another one of the stories, and I guess I'm going to give it like 3 stars. Maybe like a 2.5. I think I've given like every story 2.5. I don't think I like anthologies. I really don't like short romance stories because I just feel like it's not developed well. I just don't. Not for me. I'm really hoping that Marissa Meyer's actual story in this, like, hits for me, because it's the one I'm specifically excited about because it's Marissa Meyer, but I honestly have no hope at this point because it's just not working out for me. I have like 2 hours and 30 minutes left of this, so I'm just going to chow down on these mediocre romance stories and clean this room. So, I did clean the depression bed yesterday, but it's messy again, so like what was the purpose of that? I don't know. I finished Serendipity though, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. I should place my phone somewhere. The aesthetic of this clip is actually dismal. What the fuck is this? Hello? Okay. I finished Serendipity, and I gave it 3 stars. Better than I thought this book was gonna get. I still would say that I feel pretty mediocrely about this book. You're fallen. I consistently find that anthologies, at least for me, put their worst foot forward. Like, the first few stories are, like, honestly always the worst. Because, like, the first 3 stories I gave 2.5 stars. I don't know, like, this is a consistent thing. Like, what's the other one called that I read? Color Outside the Lines is another anthology I read last year. But the first few stories, same with this one, I fucking hated. I don't know if that's, like, a me problem or, like, the anthologies I read, but they do not start well. I did give, I think, 2 of these stories 5 stars. I'll tell you which ones they are if you're planning on reading this book, or if you already read it. Shooting Stars, which is the Marissa Meyer story. I was hoping I'd like it, and I really did. It was really fun. That trope was the one bed trope. And the other story I gave 5 stars, it was called Liberty, and that was by Anna Marie Miclemore, and that is like the makeover trope. Liberty is actually a sapphic story, and I just really, really loved it. It was like these 2 cheerleading girls, and it was just, I liked that one a lot. The rest of them were like 3 stars, 2.5, and then like a couple 4 stars. In general, my point still stands. Like, it got better as we went through more stories, but I don't think anthologies or short romances are good for me. I need the development and the convincing of the love and passion between people. I've also noticed that, like, something that apparently is a really big trope for people is, like, best friends or, like, a prior relationship that's not romantic before people become romantically involved. And usually that's, like, a really strong platonic relationship where they already, like, love each other. I don't know why people enjoy that a lot. I don't think I really like relationships where they, like, loved each other before. It's not that I dislike friends to lovers. I think I dislike close friends to lovers, because I like watch people develop romantic love, not like confess their love for each other and then become like physically romantic. I feel like I don't know. I don't like when people begin romantic relationships with I love yous. My least favorite story in this was Keegan's Heaven on Earth by Sarah Winfred Searle? I'm not sure. It's the secret admirer trope. I gave this 1.5 stars. I actually hated it. It was the one that was a comic, because like in the middle of this book there's this story that's like a comic, and I thought it was disjointed and overall just a mess. So didn't like that at all. Overall, this was okay. There were some hits, specifically Liberty. Like, that one's my favorite story in the whole thing. Another note on why I liked it is that it handles teenage sexual activity. Not that they're having, like, graphic sex, and there isn't, like, an on-page sex scene, but, like, it handles the fact that, like, teens don't just, like, confess they like each other and kiss each other on lips and, like, cuddle and stuff. Like, teens also have sex. So I like when YA, like, romances, like, acknowledge sexual activity. So I really enjoyed that element of it. Made it feel a lot more real. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I'm now, like, just over halfway through As Good as Dead, and this book has gone off the fucking rails. The plot of this book is wild. I didn't see it going this way. Crazy shit has just happened. I am curious to see what happens with the rest of it, because characters have really changed since the first book. I do think this book is not good for my mental health, though, because once again, it's just like, this book to me, when I'm reading it, feels like this swirling vortex of, like, anxiety and depression triggers. I just don't know. You can't get over that. Like, no matter what I try to do, that's not going to change. And it's not that I dislike the book or anything happening in it. It's just that, like, when I read it, my brain is just, like, taking a nosedive into not productive thoughts. So, yeah, there's, like, no way to fix that. So it's hard to, like, read this a lot. I'm also so behind in school. So reading should not be a priority, but the busier I am in school, the more I want to read because fuck school, let's go procrastination. I'm also officially going back to university, like physical university, on the 6th. It's the 1st, meaning I have to pack. I need to pack books because, like I've said, this is my year of finishing series, and I don't think I'm going to be home for a hot second, so I need to, like, pack the books I want to have with me at university, but books are heavy, and so, like, it's annoying when packing them. I'm not sure yet, but I'm really wanting to continue and finish Vampire Academy, which I have, like, these 3 books left, and unfortunately, when it comes to fantasy series especially, the books get bigger the further in the series you are, so I'm like, do I want to bring 3 thick books with me? I do theoretically, but do I want to do it practically? I don't know yet. And then there's books that I want to, like, get to in the future, like Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton. Like, this is a series I want to start relatively soon, but, like, do I want to carry this with me on a plane to university? I don't know. All I know is I have to finish this within, like, the next 2 days so I can get, like, 1 more read in before I fly back to university because I don't want to bring this. So I don't know, we'll see. I also have an essay that was due today that I haven't done yet, so, we're doing good. Not really, but. So hello. I never really finished this vlog, also this angle is weird and just accept it. But I thought I'd, like, wrap it up by telling you that before, okay, wait, I should wrap it up by first saying I'm clearly in a different room now. I did end up back at university, so how fun. Now on to the reading. I did end up finishing As Good as Dead before I left for university, so, like, go me for completing my goals, because I really did not want to bring that book here. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I think it was, like, fine. It was a solid book in the series. It just wasn't my favorite book in the series. I think that the vibe of this book, it's in some ways very different from the first 2, and in some ways very similar. This book, like, really surprised me in some ways and then really was obvious in others. Like, I think the mystery aspect of this book was a lot more obvious than the mysteries in the first 2 books, so, like, I guessed it pretty early on in the book. But I think that to make up for that, the fact that it really subverts expectations around the 200-page mark, like, it makes up for the obviousness of the mystery, because, like, you're going through the beginning, like, I totally know who's behind this, and then something happens at the 200-page mark that doesn't really matter that it was obvious, because, like, the author just kind of fucking turns the plot a whole other direction. I really liked probably around the 290 to 380 page mark. I think that's probably my favorite part of this book. It felt the most like the first 2 books in terms of tone, because, like, as much as there wasn't, like, a light part of the book, the tone felt more, like, fun to read. I think the reason I didn't enjoy this book as much as the other 2 is just because, like, it got so dark. Like, the topics dealt with in the first 2 books were also really dark, and they all kind of come to a close in this book, but, like, the mental health of the main character, Pip, in this book is so dreadful that, like, it wasn't fun to read because everything was just so, like, depressing. The book wasn't written bad, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think for me, it made it, like, reading wasn't as fun when it comes to this book. Like, the pace was still pretty fast, like the first 2 books, but it just wasn't as, like, fun to read. But not because I wasn't, like, enjoying the book. Just the actual reading process wasn't fun because just the content was so dark and the mindset of the character was so dreary that it was hard sometimes for me. This book was solid. Not my favorite in the series. The second was definitely still my favorite. Trilogies tend to have that effect with me. The first book is usually okay. The second book is, like, my favorite. Usually, like, it becomes one of my favorite books of all time. Like, Wicked King and Arch Enemies are 2 sequels to first books and trilogies, and they're, like, 2 of my favorite books of all time. Good Girl Bad Blood is, like, one of those books that I really enjoyed. And then the third book kind of falls flat for me. Like, this isn't a bad book by any means, but definitely not my favorite in the series. But I am glad that I did finish that trilogy. Overall, I would say it was a good time. If you want, like, fast-paced mysteries that always give you something to, like, chew on, definitely go for this series. It's very fun in that way. I really liked how Holly Jackson, like, brought all the details together. There was things that were mentioned in, like, the first book that came back in this book, and I think the way she drops those little details in preparation for other books is really cool, because they're, like, inconsequential when you read them originally, but then, like, they come back and you're like, oh my gosh, I remember that, and it's super cool. So overall, I think these books were really good, and yeah, if you're into mystery and you want something fast-paced, these books are like great for that. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching this vlog. I will see you in another video. Have a good day. My name is Bailey. Bye-bye.